it seems like we're live. Just checking if the feed is also coming in and if you guys are able to hear me. Sound seems to be good. And for the picture, I need to wait a bit. Yeah, seems to work as well. So, we're gonna take a look at Lily today. Gonna move through her move list as usual, and I'm gonna explain on how I would utilize certain moves, what the advantages, disadvantages, drawbacks or options are, and how your opponent may be able to counter said options. So first we got 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 3 is not a natural combo, as you can see. The last hit can always be blocked, even if a 1, 2 hits. What's special about it, if a 3 connects on counter hit, you get a guaranteed hard knockdown and get some guaranteed pressure right after. You could, for example, go for sidestep 3, and if your opponent guessed wrong or tried to do anything at all, he's gonna get clipped by the sidestep 3 into a hard knockdown, into another guaranteed sidestep 3. You have to be careful with the string though, because it's minus 13, so 2D characters, Kazuya, Eddie, Josie as well, those characters will always, while standing, launch punish you for that, so be careful with that. In 1, 2, 4 we got a safer option. Is minus 9, we can't move around anymore because we're in the later parts of a minus game basically. So if that gets blocked, we can only hold back to block. 1, 2 on its own is very good because Lily is a very movement oriented character. Her 1, 2 is her 10 frame punish if you want to go for plus frames only. We've got other guaranteed 10 frame punishes which are for damage only and result in a knockdown, but we will come to those later. If 1, 2 connects on block, we're at minus 1. Between 0 and minus 5 you can still feel free to step around, either to the side or go for backdash game. I wouldn't recommend her backdash game though, because it's not as good as with other characters. Lily really excels at sidestep movement. If you just take one step to the side and your opponent tries to press something, you can even turn up at the back of your opponent. So, if you do 1, 2 for example, or down forward 1, you're always at minus 1 and can step right after. Then visually confirm if your opponent did something and accordingly punish. Poke to keep the pressure up, like down forward 1 into sidestep down forward 1, or 1, 2 into sidestep 1, 2, stuff like that. And if they are playing very defensive, you can mix them up with down 3 to gain some plus frames with plus 1 to kind of keep the pressure up and get into the head. 2, 3. 2, 3 is, well, while it is a natural combo, I wouldn't do that as a 10 frame punish, I would do 2, 4 instead. 2 4s for damage, and it wall splits as well. So, why should we ever use 2, 3? 2, 3, while it is a natural, it leaves us on minus 2. So if that connects, we technically can't continue with pressure, but we can still step to the side. Also, if a second hit connects on counter hit, it results in a hard knockdown, where we end up in a similar situation as with 1, 2, 3 on counter hit. 3-1. 3-1 is one of her main wall bounces. To wall bounce combos and wall combos, I will talk some more about that later. For now, what you need to know is it's a natural on hit, it's -13 on block, so if your opponent knows it's -13, it's gonna hurt quite a bit. Also, if you only do the 3 on its own, you're gonna turn your back to your opponent for back turn mix up. Even on a hit though, it leaves you at -3, so there's a risk involved. And on block -11, so your opponent will always be able to kinda interrupt you, even on hit. So if you fight against someone who really loves to press buttons, just going into back turn using this is not a good idea. But it's an option. 3-2 into Dew Glide and 3-2-3. So, here I'm gonna have to talk a bit longer because there are multiple things we can do here. So, with 3-2 into Dew Glide, on hit we can set up some guaranteed counters with Dew Glide 2-1. We can interrupt with Dew Glide 4. We can high crush with Dew Glide, but when we do the glide on its own and let go of the forward button, as soon as she does that little dash in, we get access to some of her while standing moves, like while standing 4 and while standing 3. Those are the only moves you get access to if you let go of the forward button. So if we hit someone with 3-2 for example, and go for the glide, and we anticipate our opponent trying to interrupt us with any kind of high, we can go for her while standing 3 basically to interrupt them and cash in on some damage. Oh god. It's a bit tricky though. I know it's possible, but it's tricky. Has been a while since I played Lily. If we expect our opponent to always try and interrupt us with any mids, so we can't go into Dew Glide or it connected on block, we're gonna finish the complete string. The last hit though, so the second and the last hit are highs though, so if our opponent knows Lily, he can just remain in crouch and punish us with a while standing move. Because of a pushback and because it's a high, it's still very good though, because if our opponent tries to press anything, sometimes if the full thing connected on tip range, it's gonna move you just out of range with a pushback, so your opponent will actually whiff and you can punish that whiff accordingly. Broken Heart, 12 frame punish, very good. Is a safer option than a forward 2-3 as well. While forward 2-3 does more damage, if this gets blocked you're gonna get launched. So forward 2-3 you only use when you know you're guaranteed to get the punish. 1+2 you're using if you're not sure yet if you can get the punish with 12 frames. So 1+2 you kinda use to feel your opponent's moves out if you're not familiar with your opponent's frame data. And as soon as you learned, that move is -12 or worse, then you can go for 4-2-3 for more damage. Also, 4-2-3 is one of her main staples in combo after launch. Something like that. Forward 3. Forward 3 is one of her homing moves. It screws on hit as well. It has barely any range. It's very slow with 20 frames. But it's a safe mid you can use to keep your opponent in check. It's so-so. You can't really use it as a keyboard move because it has very minimal range, as you can see. It's like she just spins around herself like a little dance and can't even hit her opponent from that distance. So this you only use at very close range, and if you know if you're sure that your opponent steps a lot. Forward 4. Forward 4 is your long range whiff punish. If you noticed your opponent whiffed something and you're not sure if down forward 2 will connect as a launch punish, you go for forward 4. It's completely safe as well, and it wall splits. Kitty Claws. Kitty Claws is gonna be one of your pressure tools and main counters. If you are +4, +5, around that, you can use that. If it connects a normal hit, you're +3, so you can continue pressure with jab strings down forward 1. If you're feeling risky, you could go for 1+2 if you expect your opponent to duck, or go for down forward 2. Also on counter hit, hard knockdown into guaranteed sidestep 3. Forward 3+4. Forward 3+4 on its own is safe. -4, you can still move to the side to annoy your opponent. So if it gets blocked, you can move to the side, for example, and go for sidestep 1, sidestep 1+2, sidestep 3 into another sidestep 3, sidestep down forward 1, sidestep down 3. You kinda use all those different pokes to annoy your opponent till he has enough, and then you let the entire string rip. If the second connects on the delayed sundial, you actually get a combo. So first you only use the sundial on its own, then you go for the delayed sundial. And if your opponent got used to that and immediately wants to mix you up or retaliate, then you go for the garland kick combo. While it's very unsafe at -20, because of a pushback, most opponents are gonna have trouble with punishing that. So most of the time you're gonna get away scot-free with this without eating a punish. Where you have to watch out though, if your opponent has his back to the wall, you shouldn't go for that, because at the wall there's no longer any pushback, making it easier for your opponent to whiff punish you. As you can see now, down forward 2 would connect from that range. On open ground, it will whiff. So pushback is the only thing that makes this string safe. Down forward 2 is one of her main launchers. It's one of the safest launchers in her arsenal. It's 16 frames though, so you can't use it as a -15 frame punish. Mainly you use it to kind of check if your opponent randomly ducks, or if you got your opponent in a tech trap, if you forced some plus frames and then went for down forward 2. For example, if I go for this, I'm +6, and if I go for down forward 2 and my opponent tries to jab or do anything else, if he jabs, we're gonna trade, I'm gonna eat the jab, he's gonna eat the launch into a full combo still. And if he did anything else, he's always gonna eat the launch, and I'm not gonna take any not any damage at all because of a frame advantage. Also, this move on its own you use for wall carry as well. If you're very close to wall, hang on, you can use that to wall split. Let's move to the... where is it? Let's move to the upper stage, so I can show it one time. So for short to medium range, if the distance to the wall is between short and medium range, you go for down forward 2. For larger ranges you go for forward 3, Q glide 1 2. Down forward 3. Down forward 3 is one of the main pressure tools. It forces crouch, leaves you at +3. So the fastest move your opponent has from crouch, most of the time, not counting dick jabs or lace while standing 1, or lease while standing 3, stuff like that. Basically, because 11 frames is the fastest move your opponent has, you can kinda count yourself at +4 and then go for kitty claws, for example, for forward 1 +2. And if your opponent tried to press anything, he's gonna eat the counter hit, you're gonna eat a small hit, but you still get the guaranteed sidestep 3 follow-up. So the trade is in your favor. If this gets blocked, you're +3 and you can check your opponent with down forward 3. If your opponent learned that he can't press any buttons there, then you can start to properly mix them up with down 3, throws. You could even go for snake edge, but that's only for opponents who have no reaction time whatsoever or are not used for very slow snake edges. Yeah, let's see. Down forward 4-4. This string is very risky. It does some guaranteed damage, it gives you frame advantage on hit. So if this connects uncountered, for example, the unnatural string becomes a natural string. The thing about this is, even if your opponent got hit by the mid, he can still low parry the second hit, or block the second hit and while standing launch punish you. So use that one with care. Down forward 3+4, 3+4. This you can use if your opponent tries to interrupt your down forward 3+4. And in that situation, it leaves you in back turn and you can enforce your mid-low mix-up. If you do down forward 3-4 on its own, on hit, you actually get a combo from this. And if it gets blocked, it leaves you at -4. So there you have 3 options. Those 3 options, which you're going to use, depends on what kind of opponent you're facing. If you're facing someone who's very patient and likes to turtle a lot, then all 3 options are something you can go for. Those 3 options are basically the mid mix-up, into which is a guaranteed launch if your opponent tries to do anything at all. The low, with down 3+4, down 3-4. Or you just turn around again to go back into blocking. The thing about this, because it leaves you at -4. If you want to go back into block, your opponent can still interrupt you with jab strings, because turning around from back turned takes around 6 frames. You're at -4, -4 plus 6, you're at -10, means your opponent can get you with jab strings still. To kinda make them respect the mix-up, you got 1 4-roll and down 3 plus 4. Down 3 plus 4 completely crushes highs, as does down 3 4. There's something I want to try real quick. Yeah. With both strings, however, if down 3 plus 4 gets blocked, you're gonna get launched. If down 3 4 gets blocked, you're gonna eat some damage, but you're not gonna get launched. So if you're going for down 3 4, always do the full thing. Never do down 3 on its own. If you do down 3 on its own, you're -17, you're gonna get launch punished. Down 1 2 4. This string is completely safe. Most opponents will confuse this string with Bloody Masquerade Python, because here the second and the third hit are highs. So if you mix this, your opponent might eat the mid. Also, in combos where your opponent is very low to the ground, you use Heavy Languish to pick your opponent up for combos. Bloody Masquerade Python you're gonna use for other combos where your opponent is mid-air and you don't really know how to convert to screw. Then you go for down 2 2 3. Also down 2 2 3, because the last one ends on a high, it gives you better frames as well. So instead of -9 like here, because it ends on a mid, where you can't do anything after and need to go back on the defensive, here on -3 you are still allowed to step. Also, very important hint for sidestepping: if you sidestep, let the animation fully play out and then press something. If you press sidestep and then immediately press something, you're gonna cancel out of the sidestep, and that makes you vulnerable against your opponent's attacks. So always make sure to let the sidestep animation completely play out, and then decide if you want to go back into block or if you want to harass your opponent with pokes. Down 2 2 4 is for those opponents who are familiar with down 2 2 3 and want to duck that. Also, it wall splats, wall breaks, so might be useful at the wall. Is very punishable wall. It's a launch punish for free if your opponent is familiar with this. Down 3. Very good, low risk, good reward. Leaves you at +1, you can continue pressure with jab strings. Or with your sidestep game. Also, uncountered, it forces crouch on your opponent and leaves you at +6 on max distance, I think. It was +6 before. As you can see, it has a lot of range as well. So you can use it from range 2 as well, basically. That's how good the range on this move is. As you can see, uncounted, it leaves you at +5, so you can go for kitty claws again, down forward 1, 1 + 2, stuff like that. Depends on how risky you want to play. Down 1 + 2 is one of her power crush moves. -13, so this one you're gonna eat a punish for. At the wall, very useful. because it wall splats as well, as you were able to see. Also, nah, I'm gonna show it later. Okay. The thing with Power Crush though is the weakness of a Power Crush is any low at all. Lows are always gonna interrupt Power Crushes and grabs. People can just grab you mid-animation out of Power Crush. Matterhorn. That's a move Lily is very famous for. It completely crushes highs, it sometimes crushes mids as well, and it leads to huge amounts of damage. And that wasn't even the optimal combo. I could have done probably even more damage. Let's see. I'm delaying too much. Yeah, something like that. The thing is, while this move on its own is very good, it's very launch punishable. So, if this gets blocked, you're gonna die. But because Matterhorn is a constant threat, again, for your opponent, he needs to play very, very careful and can't utilize high strings or high moves as much as he normally would, because he always needs to keep Matterhorn in mind. If you notice that your opponent relies on high strings a bit too much, go for Matterhorn. You're gonna crush him and dish out some good damage. Also, sidestep into Matterhorn is incredibly powerful, because through the sidestep you're gonna evade all the different mids, because Lily has one of the best sidesteps in the game, and with Matterhorn you're gonna crush every high and sometimes even mids. So if you do sidestep into Matterhorn, incredibly powerful tool, but risky. Downback 3. Downback 3 is more of an Oki tool. It completely crushes highs as well, as you can see where it says status between standing. It goes into while in der Hocke, which means it counts as you being in crouching position still. So this would be your safer option to crush highs, because it leaves you at -9 on block. Also, because of a knockdown on its own, it guarantees you a free Oki situation. So if your opponent tries to stand up immediately, he's gonna eat a guaranteed down forward 2. And if you time it right, you get a guaranteed launch from that. If your opponent decides to stay on the ground, you just go for sidestep 3. But there you kinda need to know what kind of opponent you're facing. Do you have someone who's very patient and decides to stay on the ground, or are you fighting someone who has no patience or scared of sidestep 3 and decides to stand up immediately? Depends on your opponent. Downback 4, another move Lily's pretty infamous for. Very, very, very slow move. Can lead to very high amount of damage though as well. If I wouldn't fuck up. Oh my god. Yeah, you can do even more damage like that. Oh boy. Today is not my day. Yeah, something like that. You get the idea. Downbacks 3+4. I wouldn't recommend using that move. You can with that one on purpose to go into crouch to mix your opponent. with 1-2, for example, or full crouch forward 3. I wouldn't do that though, because it's very risky. As you can see, it's -18 on block, so if this gets blocked, you're gonna die. You're gonna eat a launch. If it connects though, it gives you some damage. But yeah, 20 damage into crouch mix-up basically. I wouldn't rely too much on that move though. Uncountered, there's probably something you can get. Yeah, sidestep 3 is guaranteed there. But very, very risky. Use with care. Back 1 into do glide. And back 1-4. So, back 1 into do glide. Very powerful tool. On block, as you can see, is +1. So if we were gonna go for an immediate wild standing 4, you would trade simple jab against wild standing 4. You would always win that trade basically. If your opponent decides to jab or something, you could go for wild standing 3. If you noticed that they are gonna try to bait your wild standing 3, you can go for wild standing 3-4 to retaliate immediately and build some pressure as well, because it leaves you on +4 on block, forces your opponent into crouch, so you're basically +5. You're already allowed to basically do anything you want. So you could go for basic poking game again, movement, so sidestep movement, or kitty claws. Or even a hop kick, if you're feeling a bit risky. Back 1-4 you're gonna use against opponents who react immediately or try to use crushing mids. So I'm talking about moves that crush highs and mids, like Lucky Chloe's hop kick for example, which would counter Lily pretty hard in that situation. So against opponents who love to utilize moves that have some kind of crushing properties, you let the whole string rip. Also, you can use that move for wall carry. That's for larger distances though. Let's see. As you can see, she flies quite far. It gives us a high ward split as well, which gives us some time to run in for a wall combo. Back to 1. Back to 1 is a 13 frame punish basically. So while we use down forward 1 mainly for poking to build pressure, we use down back 2 to go for guaranteed damage into back turned mix up. Going into back turned mix up at +7 is a very scary thing for our opponent, because now he actually needs to guess if we're going for down 3, down 3-4 or 1+2. Down 3+4, a very good opponent will always be able to react to that. But what you can do is you can just go for down 4. If you kind of want to poke away at your opponent and still collect some plus frames. And then you could go for wild standing 1-2, which on hit gives you insane amounts of plus frames with +8. You can basically go for launch, you can go for countered game, you can go for movement. I would really recommend continuing her poking game till your opponent gets frustrated, and then go for counters or launches. To go into back turned, you hold back. So you do back 2-1 and then hold back. If this gets blocked, however, similar situation as with a flip, your opponent will be able to punish you with jab strings, if he's fast enough. If your attention is to go back into block immediately. If it's not, you can try to high crush your opponent with down 3 plus 4 or down 3 4. Also, if you kind of want to continue the pressure but do it a bit differently, you can go into do glide from here, or you can just finish with string with 1 plus 2 if you expect your opponent to mash in between. Also, if a second connects and counter hit, the third hit is guaranteed. Also, to do glide, what I kind of forgot to mention, if you go into do glide, you can sidestep to cancel out of it and bait a punishment attempt from your opponent. So, for example, I do 3-2 do glide sidestep down forward 1. Or down 3. Or if I noticed my opponent whiffed something big, I can even go for down forward 2 or up forward 3. Also, to further emphasize the use of do glide, you can cancel out of do glide with all her different jumping moves as well. Also, you can use her back 3, back 4 mix up to cancel out of do glide as well, if you want to do so. Feisty Rabbit, it's called. Also, if you kind of want to confuse a turtling or very defensive opponent even more, you could go for do glide, cancel out of it, and then go for another do glide again. And if you connect all those things, do glide, feisty rabbit, and sidestep movement, your opponent is gonna have a hard time knowing what to expect next. So it's very, very good to confuse your opponent if he's a defensive kind of player. If your opponent is someone who likes to press buttons, then by all means don't go for cancels, just go straight forward for the different inputs you have. Feisty Rabbit 3, guaranteed knockdown, leaves you in crouch, gives you a guaranteed full crouch forward 3. At the wall, sometimes you get a guaranteed sidestep 3, and you can break your opponent through the wall using that. So very useful at the wall if your opponent tries to stand up immediately. And even if he doesn't stand up immediately, he's still gonna eat the grounded hit, which is really, really good. Be careful though, because it's punishable as heck. If this gets blocked, you're gonna eat a launch, while standing launch. So, our safer option would be Feisty Rabbit 4. Leaves us at -6. Between -5 and -8 you can always go for parry game. You're too late to go for sidestep game. Starting from -6 till -9, because you don't have enough frames to still move around. But you can always still go for parry game. Back 1+2. Back 1+2 is one of those moves I would call a sway back move, because you take a step back and then attack. -12, so you're gonna get jab string punished. But does decent amount of damage. Near the wall, I think it wall splats as well. Yeah, it wall splats as well. And at worst, you're gonna eat a 10 frame punish. Yeah, mirror image is just your manual transition into backturn stance. If your opponent is familiar with the different transitions into backturn stance, you can just go manually and then throw out some moves. Depends on your opponent if he leaves you time to do that or not, though. Alright, then we have backturned 1-2. As you can see, backturned 1 is actually 8 frames. So faster than the usual 10 frame jab. This is something Lily has in common with Master Raven. She has strings from backturned as well that are 8 frames to kind of mess with your opponent's timing. 1-2 you use if you're not sure if your opponent is gonna block or not. Because it will leave you at -3 and give you enough room to still move around. If you go for 1-4 you can also still move around, but your window for sidestepping gets a bit tighter. So 1-2 you use when you're not sure, 1-4 you're gonna use close to the wall to get a wall split, and if you're sure that you're gonna catch your opponent trying to press anything at all. Yeah, also 1-4 screws. Yes. Sidestep 2. So, sidestep 2, safe at -5, you're still allowed to move to the side. You use it after down forward 3+4 to screw your opponent for a small combo. There might be better combos, don't bash me for it. Lily's not my main, but I'm just telling you all the stuff I know. Sidestep 4, 3+4. This one has the chance of crushing mids, and it completely crushes highs. Also, on counter hit, the full thing is guaranteed. You can also use that at the wall for some guaranteed damage. For example, oops, I need to do that differently. One moment, please. Like that. So at the wall I went for, after wall split I went for back to 1, I held back and then went for 3+4 for some huge damage. Be careful though, because on block -10. So your opponent can jab string punish you for it. Back 1+2, another main tool for your backturned mix-up. If I remember correctly, it was safe on block, I think. Basically safe on block. It's -10 and forces crouch. Not every character will be able to punish that. Only characters like Lei or Lee, I think Paul as well, will be able to punish that with that weird wild standing uppercut they have, or their wild standing kicks, which are for their use only, basically. So most opponents are gonna have a bad time trying to punish this. What you have to be careful of though is, because you force your opponent into crouch, your opponent, if he has a mix-up heavy character, he could utilize that against you, stay in crouch and go for full crouch mix-up. So, if you know that your opponent is one of a more clever kind, expect a low in that situation. Against Master Raven, Yoshimitsu, Kunimitsu, Asuka, and Lars. Alisa as well. Yeah. Those would be the main offenders that come to mind right now. There are probably even more, but those are some of the main offenders where you need to watch out. If this connects, you're guaranteed a small combo. Yeah. And as you were able to see, I used down for 2 to carry my opponent to the wall. And for wall combos, you can either go for back to 1, hold back to go into back turned, and then go for 4, 3+4. Hang on. Oh my god. Something's not right with the angle right now. Like that. Or while standing 1-2, 1+2. While standing 1-2, 1+2 is probably the most consistent one you have. Alright, 3+4, 2. So, if you know that your opponent is very patient, is waiting for the low or the instant mix, you can do flip 2 to get some guaranteed damage. Or just do the flip on its own to kind of confuse your opponent because he doesn't know what will come next, because you're kind of extending the mix-up window for yourself. Thing is, if you overextend and guess wrong, your opponent will be able to jab string punish you for it. While standing 3-4 we already talked about. Never use down 3 on its own, always go for the full thing, otherwise you're gonna get launch punished, and you would rather eat some guaranteed small damage instead of eating a full launch combo into wall carry, wall break, whatnot. So always go for the full thing. Yeah. Down 3+4 is a homing move as well, so if your opponent decides that he wants to sidestep your back turn mix up, because Lily's biggest strength is her biggest weakness as well. Movement. So if your opponent moves a bit too much for your taste, use down 3+4 to keep them in check. Be careful though, there are opponents out there who sidestep to bait you into using down 3+4 to then low block and while standing punish you. So watch out for clever opponents. Yeah, back 1+4 is one of the worst unblockables. It's very slow. You don't really use that in a real match. Up forward 1 is one of your counter hits. You get a guaranteed combo there as well, if I remember correctly. Yeah. You get a combo on counter hit. On block it's -5, it's a mid. It looks like it forces your opponent into crouch, but it doesn't, so you can kind of play with your opponent there to make them use moves they think they have from while standing, because they think that you forced them into crouch, but you didn't force them into crouch. The animation on block just looks that weird. Also, it kinda has a stun on its own on block, so it's gonna be difficult for your opponent to time his moves right without just spamming one button to get the input out. Up 3, forward, a different transition to go into Moonlight. I would not recommend using that move. On block, launch punishable on its own. If you do the extension, before the second hit connects, your opponent will be able to jab punish you out of it to get a float combo for free. So I would very rarely use that on its own. The only exception is if you go for do glide mix up and then want to mix up your opponent. That's a viable option because your opponent expects an attack but isn't ready to jab you out of it. He's waiting to block and punish you, but he's not ready to interrupt. So if we go for stuff like that, that's fine against defensive players. Against defensive players, I'm giving you the green light to utilize that. Against opponents who are very defensive and who don't know that they can jab punish you out of that, or interrupt, jab, string you out of that, you can use up 3/3/3+4. Leaves you at -8, so you're still safe. If you're feeling cheeky, you could go for punch parries if you expect your opponent to try and retaliate. Up 3+4. Very cool move. Safe on block. Difficult to kinda judge the distance if it connects or not. On whiff, punishable as heck. You don't want to whiff that. You can use that, however, in situations where you think your opponent is gonna press something and you're -1 or -3. You're free to go for that. Also, you get some decent damage from it, but the combo for this is a bit inconsistent. There are more consistent combos out there, of course. But this one probably does the most damage. Up forward, maybe the other combo you could do is just down 1 to 4 if you want to go for reliability. You need to do a micro dash invol to connect this. If you don't do the micro dash, the first hit is gonna whiff and you won't be able to properly connect the combo. So do a small micro dash and then go for it. Also, if your opponent is back turned like that, never go for do glide 1-2. Either go for what was it? Hang on, I think it was, yeah, go for do glide 2-1 or for do glide while standing cancel 4. Those are the options you have. Up 4-2. Up 4-2 is one of those moves that has an auto sidestep built in, -10 on block. So you're gonna eat a jab string punish there. I don't think it gave you anything uncounted, but this wall splats and it wall breaks as well, as far as I know. Up 4-3 is your -15 counted punish. It sometimes crushes highs. It doesn't crush mids, I think. Mids will always catch you there. Yeah. Also, as most top kicks, -13 on block, so you're gonna eat a bit of punishment there. Up forward 4-3. Another one of her wall bounces. If you're not sure if your opponent will eat the full thing, you can just do up forward 4, hold back, and then go for back turned mix up to mess with your opponent. Up forward 3+4-3 and up forward 3+4-3+4. Up forward 3+4-3 you're gonna use if you know that your opponent is gonna try to interrupt you. As you can see, guaranteed knockback uncounted. Near the wall you get a wall splat, so that will give you a guaranteed wall combo there. If you know that your opponent knows that the second hit is a high and tries to duck, you go for 3+4-3+4. And if they tried to duck into while standing punish, they're gonna eat the Metahorn. Be careful with that though, because Metahorn on block is very, very punishable. You're gonna eat a launch for that. Forward 4-2. One of her other power crushes. This one is risky, because if this gets blocked, you're gonna get launched. If it doesn't get blocked, you can launch your opponent for that. So this one you should use with care. You can use that, however, as a long range with punish. Or not long range. Let's say mid range with punish, because of a forward forward 2 input. For long range, use your flip with down forward 3+4. Forward forward 3. Forward forward 3 you're mainly gonna use in combos, or if you want to approach your opponent from a distance and stay safe. And yeah, you always want to cancel into do glide, because if you don't, you're -12 and can get punished. If you cancel into do glide, you have different options to retaliate against an opponent who tries to press. With her cancel into wild standing 3 against high strings, or sidestep canceling against opponents who love to use moves that are mid and don't track as well. Or face the rabbit is also an option if you want to play a bit riskier. If you know that your opponent found an option to deal with that reliably, or if you're pretty sure that your opponent is pretty good at reading you, then you go for forward 3+4 to make your opponent respect the different mix-up options you have. Because if he doesn't, the flip is gonna connect and knock him to the ground. Forward forward 4. Against opponents who can't react to that from sidestep movement, very good, leaves you at +4. You can go for poking game, you can go for sidestep game, you can go for countered game with 1+2, forward 1+2, or you can play a bit riskier with 1+2 or forward 3+. Forward 2, 3. Or you could even go for up 3+4 if you're not sure what your opponent's gonna go for next. Forward forward 1+2. This one's a bit special. It's a homing move, but it's not as nice as other homing moves. So it's 18 frames fast, slow. It's a mid. It leaves you at -9. It knocks your opponent back. It can hit your opponent through the wall, but the startup is a bit slow. Also, you can hold it down to go for her unblockable. So if she does 3 spins, it turns into her unblockable. If you do more than 3, you're gonna see a damage increase, actually, I think. No. After 3 spins already. Okay. So after 3 spins, it's always unblockable. After 1 spin, so if you let immediately go, it's always -9. If you do at least 2 spins, it's gonna leave you at +5. There you kinda need the knowledge if your opponent is someone who likes to press buttons or not. So you need the read. Forward forward 3+4. Safe on block -6. You can go for parry setups, you can't go for sidestep movement anymore. Going for sidestep movement here is already a bit risky. Yeah, manual input for dew glide. 1-2. This one is your combo finish most of the time. On block -14. There are characters who can launch punish you for that, so use with care. On counter hit, if the second connects, I think, you get a guaranteed combo. Oh goddamn. Yeah, like that basically. Yeah. If you noticed that your opponent likes to sidestep all your different do glide options, you go for do glide 2-1. Let me check something real quick. Yeah, as I thought. Minus 13 on block, so this can get punished. If you only do the first one though, you're safe. You can also heavily delay the second hit, as you can see. I can let go immediately, like that, or I can heavily delay it to catch your opponent near the wall for world split. Crouch dash is 3+4. This one is your go-to homing move. It's high, yes, but it leaves you at +6 on block. So you can go for countered game, you can go for launchers, you can go for poking game. You can basically do whatever the hell you want to do. Also, it's one of your main screws and combos. As you can see, I go for forward, forward 3, hold forward, and then do 3+4. You can sometimes use that for wall carry as well, but it's combo dependent. Yeah, triple forward 3, not so great. Neutral and block, doesn't give you any plus frames. Also, you're still in range of your opponent. I wouldn't really recommend using that move. I would just skip that one. While standing 1-2-4. This one right here, risky to use if you do the full thing. If you do the full thing, you're either gonna get blocked and punished, sometimes even launch punished, depending on the character you're facing against. Against other characters who don't have a launch punish, they're always gonna low parry the third hit, so I would recommend only using the first two, and even if this gets blocked, you can still go for movement if you want to play it safe, or you could go for immediate mid pokes if you're feeling a bit more risky and think that your opponent is expecting the low and tries to low block that or low parry that. You use mid pokes to confuse them, mix them up, basically. While standing 2, yeah, it's not as good as other while standing punishers, but it's something, I guess. While standing 3 is probably your better option there, because you do a lot more damage from that combo. If this gets blocked, however, because you didn't read your opponent right, you're in for a bad time, so you have to be careful there. If you're not sure if you've read your opponent right, or if you're not sure if something's launch punishable for you with Lily, you go for while standing 3-4. Also, instead of going for while standing punishment against moves that are low and minus 15 on block, you go for her hop kick to punish those. So basically there's an execution barrier hidden. Hang on, there was something there. How did it go again? Ah, yes. So back 1-4 you're gonna use for long distance wall carry. And for medium to short distance you're gonna use down 4-2. Yeah. Full crouch forward 1. This is your 14 frame punish. So if your opponent uses something that's minus 14, use that. It's a good amount of damage, it knocks your opponent back, and it frustrates them because it puts them at a distance again, making you able to go for your forward 3 and flip shenanigans again. Full crouch forward 3. You're not gonna use that often on its own. You might use that out of do glide, uncounted. You get a small combo as well, as you can see. On hit it's -2, so your turn is basically over, but you can still go for sidestep movement. Sidestep 3. Sidestep 3 is one of those moves you only use against opponents who love to stay on the ground, basically. Also, if you hit someone with sidestep 3, you're always guaranteed another sidestep 3. So yeah. On block though, it's actually safe, but you can't go for sidestep movement anymore, you can't go for parry setups, you need to stay on the defensive there. Sidestep 1+2. Countered launch for some guaranteed damage. On block... Oh. Wow, it's actually safe on block. I didn't know that. Interesting. So on block it's -2. Making you able to still step to the side, go for movement shenanigans, as we were talking about earlier already. On hit it results in a hard knockdown, and next to the wall it should result in a wall split, I think. Yeah, at very close range it's a wall split. Alright. 10 hits we can skip. This might still be interesting, so I had something for this, I just need to remember. Yes, if your opponent tries to stand up immediately, you get a guaranteed 4-2-3. So altogether 72 damage, 32 because of the forward 2-3 input and the rest of it from the throw itself. Yeah, this one you can use if you want to go for style. This grab was actually the reason I learned Lily back in the day, because I thought it looked cool. Yeah, this is her punching parry. This one is a bit special, because you get some guaranteed stuff right after as well. You get a guaranteed down forward 2 if you time it right. God damn it. The timing is very tricky to get though. And you can't just... Oh, no, you can just spam it. Alright. So as you can see, it's a combo for free if your opponent tries to stand up immediately. And if your opponent doesn't stand up immediately, you get a refloat. Like that. If you want to go for guaranteed damage, you go for down forward 2, and then something like down 2-2-3 should work, I think. Ah, no. Then one down 1-2-4 probably. Let's see. Yeah, down 1-2-4 works. If you expect your opponent to just stay on the ground, you go for sidestep 3. Or you can just go for 4-2-3 for guaranteed damage. Let's see if 1+2 is an option. Or 1+2, 3-1 is an option as well, I think. Yeah, or 3-1. Those are the options you have from Parry. Ah, Rage Drive, right. We haven't talked about Rage Drive yet. So, her Rage Drive on block, -9. Very, very strong. You can go for countered game there. Or you could go for pure pressure. If this connects, you can do some huge damage as well. You pick up with fort 2-3, then go for fort 3, 3+4, and then depending on the situation, you need to switch your combo up a bit. As you can see, I do a small micro dash in though, because without you would just whiff the first hit. This one is advanced though, so it's gonna take some time to get that one down. You need to input everything frame perfect, or you need to buffer. Oh my god, I can't get it to work right now. There we go, something like that. Ah, right. I could do it like that, I think. Yeah, that should work. Oof. Yeah, this one requires practice I don't have yet. Nah, I thought that would connect, but it seems it doesn't. Probably need a wall split for back to 1 to connect, because it barely has any range. Well, anyhow, that's Lily as I know her. It probably didn't cover everything. I covered all the stuff I know. I don't know everything though. If you have suggestions on how to make those guides better, or if you know some stuff about Lily I didn't talk about, feel free to drop a comment. There's probably a lot I missed, because I don't play her as much as Lily mains would, for example. It was just to give some overview on how I see the character. Alright, I thank you for watching, and I guess I will see you around or see you next time. Till then.